آمين. نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. To all of my sisters, I hope that you're all doing good, inshallah, with respect to your health and iman. Right, so today is going to be session number 11 of Surah Al Mulk, inshallah. So, first of all, let's recite the dua that Rabbana zidna ilma. May our Lord increase us all in knowledge, inshallah. So, yes, today we will be doing ayah number 11 of Tajweed. And yes, yesterday we did, we studied that how we are supposed to, do waqf, how we're supposed to take a break, or, pause either in the middle of ayah, or how to end the ayah, right? So yes, I didn't mention the ayahs yesterday, so that was a little mess created. So for today I have written each point with examples below it. So yes, I hope that things will be much more clear to you today. So yes, we will be repeating this session for today, inshallah, that how to do waqf or pause, right? Either in the middle of the ayah or at the end of the ayah, right? Because we all are, when we are reciting, right, and whenever we feel like taking a break to catch up on our breath, right? So because everybody has different differences in that, for how long they can hold their breath, right? So whenever we are reciting Quran, and we just don't say the recitation just the way we talk in our daily lives, right? So rather there is a proper way how we should stop in the ayah, right? So what are the proper ways? That just depends on the word on which you are, at which you stop, right? So also specifically, the last letter of that word. So yes, we will just look at those points. I have summarized the basics of taking a break in like 6 points. Okay, so we will just discuss these 6 points for today with examples. So you need to remember that, right? These 6 points, you will try to remember them, right? Just like we did the 4 rules of Noon Sakin and Tanween, and the 3 rules of Mim Sakin, right? So yes, these are the 6 points that you can see on your screens as well. I will inshallah share these in the group as well. So you see these 4 points, and these 2 points, which are like 6 points. Let's discuss the first point, right? So the first point is that if you take a break at a letter which already has a sakin on it, right? So I have written the examples of this Surah Alam Nashrah. The first word here is Alam Nashrah. Okay, this is just for example. You will not be, taking a break here, for example, Alam Nashrah, because you can say this small ayah as well, right? The full ayah as well. But I'm just for example, if you feel like taking a break, add this word Nashrah. So, you see the last letter of this word is already sakin. So whenever we take a break at any such word, the last letter of which is already sakin, so yes, we keep that as it is. It remains sakin. We will just say alam nashrah, right? Alam nashrah. Yes, just like that. So this was just the first point, right? So let's discuss the second one. If we take a break, if we do waqf at a word, the last letter of which has a fatha, ضمة كسرة ضمتين كسرتين. So I've written it here, like if a letter has like fatha, ضمة, kasra, and not fathatain. Okay, this fathatain, yani like the two slanting lines above any letter, this is excluded from this point. Okay, so the fatha, dhamma, kasra, and then dhammatain and kasratain. We will see this one in the next point of like fathatain, right? So fatha, dhamma, kasra, dhammatain and kasratain. So yes, what we will do, we will make them sakin. For example, this ayah here is, yes, the ayah number 1 of Surah Mulk, right? We did, and we took a break here at Mulk. تبارك الذي بيده الملك. Okay, so this word here, The last letter of this has this dhamma on it, right? This dhamma, this one. What we will do is that we will change that into sakin. I've written here, right? And we will say biyadihil mulk. I'm not saying biyadihil mulku, right? I'm making this kaf sakin here. So this was example with dhamma. Let's see the example with fatha here. Okay, if the word has fatha at the end. For example, الذي خلق الموت. So if you feel like taking a break here at this word, we will say الذي خلق الموت. Maut, right? So we made this ta with fatha into sakin. We changed it into sakin, right? So the example with dhamma, fatha. Let's see the example with dhammatain here, right? For example, this word here, على كل شيء قدير, right? So this word here was qadirun. Okay, if you have the musafs in which this small noon letter is not written, you will find that on this raw letter there is dhammatain here, right? The two dhammas, qadirun. So when we ended the ayah, we said it like kulli shay'in qadir. I'm not saying qadirun, right? Because there is a rule that whenever there is fatha, dhamma, kasra, dhammatain, kasratain, we change that into sakin. I hope that this, you got this point. Let's see the this fathatain, right? We excluded the fathatain, so that comes in the next points. Okay, so if we take a break, or if we do waqf at a letter with, okay, with next slide. Okay, with fathatain, right? What do we do on that? We change that to alif. Okay, so for example, this ayat here is like it said. Okay, so I have cut the starting portion of it, which said that liyabluwakum ayyukum ahsanu amala, right? لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. This word here, if I'm going to, stop here, this was عَمَلًا, right? This has like fathatain at the end. Fathatain, like the two slanting lines above any letter, right? عَمَلًا. Also, you are not going to confuse this that by saying that, okay, this letter is ending with the alif, right? This is, if you hear the sound of this letter, you say amalan, amalan. You do not hear alif sound at the end. If you say amalan, you just pronounce this letter, this word here like this, amalan, right? If this lam has this fathatain, you are articulating that sound of lan. You are not articulating the sound that is coming after it, which is alif here, right? So we will just look at, when I say that if you stop at any letter with fathatain, I mean from this I mean that the sound. Okay, if you hear that amalan, okay, tibaqan, right? So whenever we are going to stop at any word with fathatain, we are going to change that into alif sound, and how we'll say this is amala. So specifically, we will just change the fathatain into one fatha plus is alif sakin sound. I've just written it here to simplify this. Like this was amalan, we'll change it into ama and lam fatha alif sakin la, right? Amala. Here is in the same way, like طِبَاقًا. This was, we can write it like this as well. The sound of it. طِبَاقًا, and we will say this طِبَاقًا, right? طِبَاقًا. Okay, so yes, this was the third point, or you can say the third rule. You can categorize. So we have done like three up till now, 3 points, right? The first point was related to if any we are staying at any word with a sakin on it, right? We're with a sakin on it, so we will keep that sakin as it is, right? The second point was that if we take a break at any word which has fatha, damma, kisra, dammatain, kasratain, we will change that into sakin, right? This was the second point. So the third point says that if we take a break at any letter with fathatain, we will change that into like the one fatha plus alif sakin sound. or you can just simply say that, change that to an alif sound at the end, right? So the fourth point is that if you take a break or if you do waqf at any word, the last letter of which has this round ta at the end, right? Round ta at the end. I'm not talking about this flat one. I've written it here as well, right? This is the flat ta, which is, what is a round ta? You can see it here at the end of this word, tazkiratan, this round ta at the end. Then we will change that into ha sakin. Ha sakin. You know, the ha, which is the ha that comes from the portion of the throat that is near to our chest. You know, this ha. Okay, we'll change that into ha sakin. So yeah, yes, let's see the example. لِنَجْعَلَهَا لَكُمْ تَذْكِرَةً. If I will, stop here, I would say تَذْكِرَةً. At the end, I'm not saying تَذْكِرَةً. This tan will change into the ha sakin. Okay, so we will say ki raw sound and then at the end ha sakin. So we will join this sound of ha sakin with this raw here, and we will say tadhkirah. People when they take a break at this point, whenever there is round ta at the end and they change it to ha sakin, they say like tadhkirah. لِنَجْعَلَهَا لَكُمْ تَذْكِرَةً. Okay, we're not supposed to say like that, tadhkira, because at the end you are not joining the ha sakin. You are just you are just articulating it till this point of raw. If you are going to join this ha sakin, you are supposed to articulate the sound of ha at the end and say raw, raw, right? Otherwise you are not, you're just skipping this letter. Okay, so you will say tadhkira, raw. This ha sound should be prominent at the end, right? So just like this, we say udhunun wa'iyah, wa'iyah, ya and ha at the end, ha sakin. This is the round ta as well. Same as, this is round ta as well. The difference in shape is just because that this was separate here and here it is joined with the previous letter. Okay, so both of these are round tas. We will just say wa'iyah, the ha sound at the end, right? Wa'iyah, same like this. Wahida. Okay, I hope that this is clear to you. This was the fourth point. Okay, so yes, if we'll do waqf at any letter with a dagger alif, this like standing straight line symbol above any letter, right? You see this, we just stretch this for 2 counts, right, in our lessons. So if you see that on any letter, at the end of the letter on which you are taking a break, so then you will keep that as it is. This is a very famous, many of the peoples might be, remembering this surah, Wadduha, right? When we say Wadduha, so at the end, on letter Ha, there is this dagger alif, right? The straight line symbol above the letter, right? So we will keep that as it is. Same like here, Taha, Taha. Okay, so we will keep them as it is. And again, I'm saying that here again, after the ha letter, you are seeing this ya as well, right? So you are not supposed to confuse this with the first rule that, okay, this word here at the end, the letter is in sakin, so we will keep that sakin. Okay, not like that. Because here again, just focus on the sound of ha here. We're not articulating the letter ya, and we're not articulating the letter ya here. So that is why we're saying wadduha. So the next point, the last one, is that if we are taking a waqf at a word which is ending with, this the standing straight line below the letter, right? Earlier we did, which was above the letter, below the letter, or this inverted dhamma symbol. Let's see these two, right? For example, in the first example here, yarahu, on the letter ra, like ha here, you see an inverted dhamma symbol on that, right? This you're not supposed to confuse this with dhamma. Okay, I have just called it inverted dhamma here. The other dhamma is, we write it like this. Okay, like who, and we articulate that, like we stretch that sound for only 1 count, right? We say who. And for this inverted dhamma, whenever it comes on a letter, we say like who for 2. for 2 counts. Okay, we stretch that for 2 counts. So I'm talking about this, this who, this inverted dhamma, which we stretch for 2 counts. So if we take it at, if we take a break here at this word here, we will just, change that to sakin. We will say yarah, rather than yarahu. We will just say yarah, right? Again, you need to make this ha prominent at the end and say rah, ya rah, right? So also, same case with the straight line symbol below any letter, right? We again stretch this for 2 counts and we say he for 2 counts, right? So we will just change that into ha sakin, okay, and say bi, ya rah, and bi. Okay, so yes, these were the 6 points. Okay, so these were the 6 points. If you will just remember, try to remember these 6 points. They will help you when you are, doing your daily, day-to-day recitation. Okay, I have not talked about the works which are like the, uh, there are more categories as well. They are like the detailed ones. So, as for your daily recitation, inshallah, they will help you. They will be sufficient for the beginners, I must say. Okay, so let's move on to today's ayah number 11. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فاعترفوا بذنبهم فسحقا لأصحاب السعير. فاعترفوا. Okay, so this ayah is starting with letter fa here. How do we articulate this letter? Is that we put the tip of our upper teeth to the lower lips and, we remove the air from our mouth to say this letter fa, right? Fa. فاعترفوا. I'm joining the sound of this fa letter here with the next letter ain. Fa. Okay, so we discussed this letter yesterday as well. That in the previous ayah as well, this letter was in sakin position, right? So in one word, so this was in sakin position, and I mentioned that whenever this ain comes in sakin position, you are supposed to avoid making kalkala, right? You are not supposed to say fa, right? Not like this, fa, because the sound of the ain letter will bounce back like this. Okay, there will be an echo, you will hear. Okay, you can simply say that you will hear the sound of ain letter repeating here when you say fa. Fa. Okay, you're not supposed to say like that, because ain is not from the 5 letters of kalkala on which we do this, right? These are the kalkala letters, which are 5: qaf, ta, ba, jim, and dal. Only on these letters, when they are in sakin, we say like aq, at, ab, aj, ad, right? So the sound bounces back on these letters when they are sakin. So ain is not from those, so you will avoid that. And how you will avoid that is that when you are articulating ain letter here, for a moment, you will stay at the articulation point of ain. When you are articulating, you will stay there for a bit and say fa, like fa. You can hear that I'm not doing this quickly. I'm not doing this fa. Fa'tarafu. I'm saying fa'tarafu. فاعترفوا, right? The articulation point of ain is the middle portion of our throat, right? So at that point, we are supposed to just stay for a bit and say فاعترفوا, فاعترفوا, right? Inshallah, when you will practice this, you will do this, inshallah. Okay, so the next letter is ta letter, tip of the tongue. It touches the back of our upper teeth lightly, right? The light letter ta, ta, fa'ta, fa'ta, ra, ra. Okay, I'm not saying tara, tara. I'm saying ra. Okay, I'm making the sound of this raw letter heavy, ra. Okay, I mentioned this earlier as well, that raw is from those letters which sometimes becomes heavy and sometimes it is light. So that is why whenever ra comes, I sometimes say that here this is heavy, here this is light, right? So at this point here, ra will be heavy. Why? Because this has this fatha on it. So we will say ra, tarafu, tarafu. Again, fa letter. Air comes out of her mouth, and we are stretching the sound here for 2 counts. Why we are doing this? Because of this wow madda here. Okay, wow madda means, mad means to stretch, and why? Because wow is in second position, and before this wow there is dhamma on the previous letter. So we will make the oo sound for 2 counts. Fu, فاعترفوا بذنبهم. B letter, very simple voice, just the B sound with joining both lips together. B, them, them. Okay, so this is the letter here, right? Dal. Tip of the tongue, it touches the tip of our upper teeth very softly. Okay, so this is the light one. When we say the, very soft, no buzz in this, right? Be them, be them. Okay, yes, we have a rule here of noon sakin, everyone. So here there is noon sakin. You can see here, right? Noon sakin, and after noon sakin, which is the letter? Let's see. This is letter ba here. Okay, so the rule, this was the rule which was called iqlab. So whenever after noon sakin comes letter ba, what do? We change the sound of the noon into meme. Okay, so we will change the sound into meme, and also I told you guys that you will, see this little meme written on above that as well. Okay, which means that you are supposed to say meme here rather than noon. Okay, so we will say be them. Okay, so be them. Also I said that there are like two ways to convert the sound into meme. The first way is to join the two lips together but lightly. The second is that you do not join them together completely, but there is just a very minute space between the two lips. Okay, when you say meme, be them, be them, be him, right? Be them, be him. Again, be sound, be him. The ha, and this is the ha that is articulated from the portion of the throat that is near to our chest, and we say him, right? Okay, so I've just marked it here because if you feel like taking a break at this word, so let's see that the last letter of this word, be them, be him, is already second. So this is from the first point I discussed, that if you take a waqf at such a word which has sakin at the end letter, so you will just keep that as it is. Okay, we'll just keep this as sakin here, and we'll just stop here, be them, be him, right? Very simple. فسحقا لأصحاب السعير. Okay, so this again word here is starting with fa letter here, fa, right? Fa, ear comes out of your mouth. Okay, fasuhqal, fasu, su, right? This su sound has this whistle in it along with the ear, right? Su, su, fasuhqal. Okay, so this scene is also a light letter. Okay, and all of the air, it just comes out of your mouth, and your mouth becomes empty when you say su, su, fasuhqali. Okay, so the next letter here is ha letter. It is articulated from the middle portion of your throat, right? And this letter has this quality that there is a lot of air that was removed when you say ha. And also I said that when you articulate this ha, first of all, you try to push the air out of your throat. The first point, okay? So the first point is that you try to push the air out of your mouth, and the second one is that after pushing the air out of your mouth, at the end you produce the sound of this letter ha. Okay, you can hear this ha, ha. At first part there is only air. At the end part, then there comes the sound. Okay, ha. Okay, I hope that you can hear this. Fasuhqali, qaf letter here. Back part of the tongue, it touches the soft palate with strength. and we say qalli, qalli. This is a heavy letter, right? Qa, qalli. Okay, so here again a rule of noon sakin and tanween, right? So you see a tanween on letter qaf here, like qan. And let's see which is the letter that comes after it. This is the letter lam here in the next word. Okay, you're not supposed to confuse again that there is a lif after it. Okay, we are focusing on the sound. When we say fasuhqan, we're not articulating this alif already here. Okay, so we are supposed to look at the word that is after after it, and we are articulating that as well. So this is lam here. After the tanween there is letter lam here, right? So we discussed that whenever after noon sakin or tanween comes letter lam, what do we do is that we enter the sound of this qan into li, right? We join these sounds, we assimilate these sounds, and we say qalli, qalli, right? Qalli, fasuhqalli, ashabi, aus. This is hamza sound, simple a sound, a, right? Aus. I'm joining it with letter sod here. Sod. This is the heavy letter here, right? This letter is different than this seen letter. You know, when you make this seen letter heavy, the sound which is articulated is sod, right? The su and aus. Aus. This is a heavy letter again. Li aus. This is a heavy sound. You're not supposed to say li as. This is li aus. This is a full mouth letter. You will feel that you have trapped some of the air in your mouth, and you know some of that you just push out of your mouth. Okay. Aushabi, aushabi. Okay, so again this is letter ha that comes from the middle portion of the throat, and again on that letter you see a this dagger alif, this standing straight line on it. So we will stretch this for 2 counts and say ha. You know, we're not saying ha, we are saying ha. Okay, li ashabis sa'ir. Okay, b, ba with kasra, b, and I'm joining this with seen here. Why? Because seen has this tashdid on it, right? So we are supposed to join this with the previous letter and say bista, bista. Okay, see, seen letter with whistle and air, right? Bisa, bisair. Okay, so this is ain letter here with a kasra. Again, you're not supposed to say sa'ir, right? You're supposed to make an effort to articulate I sound here. I, and again, you know, we are stretching this for 2 counts here. And you know, this double E kind of sound. Why? Because there is ya madda happening here. Madda means stretching. Ya, which is like here, this is ya madda, which means that ya is in second position. And before this, we see a kasra. So we will make this E sound and say bisa'ir, bisa'ir. At the end there is letter ra, and you know this letter ra is having this kasra below it. So here we will keep this ra light. You know, here the ra was heavy, ra, and here this will be ir, ir. Okay, so this will be light here. So yes, that is it for today, everybody. Yeah.
It's my turn now. We'll start it formally. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي ربنا زدنا علما اللهم فقهنا في الدين اللهم حاسبنا حسابا يسيرا آمين ثم آمين. Yes, sisters, hope that you are fine in respect of your health, and the condition of your iman is also ever increasing. And we have almost done, yes, done the first third of the surah. And today we are on the 11th verse that you have just learned in the Tajweed way. And I look at from the point of view of meaning, vocabulary, and a bit of explanation of the verse. But before that, I would just like to sum up the 10 ayahs, verses that you have done so far. We are doing Surah Al Mulk, the first chapter of the 29th para. Al Mulk, as the name suggests, it means the dominion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the word Al Mulk is used in the very first word. The word Mulk is used in the very first verse of the chapter. Tabarakalladzi biyadihil mulk. So there are different reasons for the names of chapters. There are different reasons, and in this particular case, the word Al-Mulk is used in the very first verse. That's why the chapter is named after that. And we have learned already that Al-Mulk means the dominion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which basically hints towards the complete and absolute superiority and sovereignty. And it is the kind of superiority and sovereignty that has no other sovereign, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no other sovereign over him. Allah is at the top, the highest in the hierarchy, but there is no one equal to him and no one above Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that actually is something that makes him the creator, the Lord, and we are all the created. Now we'll have a brief summary of the first 10 ayat of the surah or verses. In the verse 1 and 2, these two verses basically speak of the majesty of the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his power to create everything. There is nothing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can't do. With a special reference of the creation of al-hayat, khalaq al-mauta wal-hayata, the creation of life and death. This is particularly mentioned here that al-maut and hayat are entities, as we, the human beings, as jinns, as angels are entities. Maut and hayat are also entities, and Allah has created them. And hayat, the life specially, is created for a reason, for a purpose. And Allah wants to see that who performs best in his life. So in this way, Quran and Islam gives us a purpose to live our life as well. Because there are billions out there who don't even know the purpose, that why they are sent to this world. And this remains as a big question mark in their mind all through their life, and many of them, unfortunately, they fail to get the answer. But Quran tells us the reason that why we are sent here. So if we are conscious believers, if we are conscious Muslims, then we would keep this purpose of our life in our mind every passing moment of our life, and we'll try to live a life that that makes us prepared for being accountable in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we return to him. And it says that it's not that we are sent here for no reason at all. There is definitely a reason, and the reason is very clear. Then in the ayat number 3 and 4, these two verses actually provide an example of his creation. Already it is told that Allah has power to create everything, and there is nothing that he cannot create, and he has created the life and death. And then examples of the power to create are given. Sab'a samawat is a very clear example, which actually includes everything. When you say Sab'a samawat, 7 heavens, all the things included in them are already mentioned, are already hinted towards. And then these two ayat pose a challenge for everyone to find faults with the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And human eye will exhaust, and it will, desperately fail in its attempt to find improvements or find, faults in the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it won't be able to suggest anything that this is wrong and this could be improved or like that. Then there is verse number 5 of the surah, of this chapter. Allah says, وَلَقَدْ زَيَّنَ السَّمَاءَ الدُّنْيَا بِمَصَابِيحَ وَجَعَلْنَاهَا رُجُومًا لِلشَّيَاطِينَ وَأَعْتَدْنَا لَهُمْ عَذَابَ السَّعِيرِ. So this verse speaks of the beauty of the night sky with stars as lamps. Masabih, as I told you earlier, that stands for the lamps. And even the beauty created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala serves a purpose. The beauty is not just for the sake of beauty, but it serves a purpose, and the purpose of the stars of these fiery balls is to push away the devil sneaking close to the heavens as they are trying to get some information from the above, and then they pass this on to the magicians and people like that. and they are thrown, these fireballs are thrown towards them like missiles, and some of these, fireballs kill them, they just burn them there. So stars have a dual purpose to serve. Number one, that they make the night sky beautiful for us. And second, they are a source of pushing away the devils when they try to sneak closer to the heavens. And then next is the ayat number 6, which says, وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بِرَبِّهِمْ عَذَابُ جَهَنَّمَ وَبِئْسَ الْمَصِيرُ. This verse basically defines the believers, it defines the disbelievers. And the reason for their disbelief is kufr, because they did kufr, they rejected the signs, they rejected the signs and revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is something which is equated with kufr. Kufr basically means to reject something. And what actually they are rejecting? They are rejecting the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as mentioned earlier in the chapter Al Mulk. And they, in a way, they are rejecting the revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is why the title kufr fits for them. And they are rightly called kuffar or kafir. It's not a slang. Some people believe that it's a very derogatory word and it's kind of slang or something that shouldn't be used for the non-Muslims. But if you look at the dictionary meaning of the word kufr, it just means to reject something or to oppose something. So the reason here that they did kufr is that they disbelieved in the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as a result of their kufr, their actions are based on opposing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is warning them that because your actions are not correct in the sight of your Lord, so there is punishment awaiting for you. Then in the ayat number 7 to 10, you found a conversation between the angels and the dwellers of the fire of hell about the Nazir, about the warner, about a prophet, and which they would admit that yes, they had one, yet they rejected and they insulted the Nazir, they insulted the prophet, and they opposed him. So at this point, they are accepting that yes, they did the things wrong which actually are responsible for landing themselves into trouble now. And finally, we are up to this ayat number 11 that you have just done in Tajweed. And this verse 11 says, فَأَعْتَرَفُوا بِذَنْبِهِمْ. It actually is the continuation of the idea that starts from ayat number 7 and it remains continued through 7, 8, 9, and 10. فَأَعْتَرَفُوا بِذَنْبِهِمْ. It closes the conversation. And by affirming that yes, they have confessed all their crimes, all their sins. Making confession, of doing something wrong, either in the public or either in your private life, is something really very hard. Making a confession is an extreme mental condition. Where a person is questioned basically finds himself trapped, in the consequential evidences that he can't refute. And that would be the case with the sinners in the hereafter. Why? They would be forced to, they would be forced to confess or agree or recognize or acknowledge the sins or the crimes, because the evidences proved in front of them would be so strong that they won't be able to refute them, and they would have no way but to accept that, yes, I did it and I did wrong. So that actually would be the problem with them. And if they had any possibility of, still telling lies there, still being able to prove that they didn't do any sin at all, they didn't commit any crime at all, they would still be using those tactics as they were using in the worldly life. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would make it extremely or utterly impossible for them to find a way out from that punishment. And this is something really very interesting. Fa'tarafu word is from Ain Rafa, and the word basically is etaraf. Etaraf means to make confession of something wrong that someone has been doing. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, very in a very explanatory way tells us in the Quran that Allah will make the sinners make confession of their crimes, and how that process would actually take place, that their mouths will be sealed. The mouths of the sinners and disbelievers will be sealed, and their limbs involved in all those crimes and sins will speak. Allah will give power to their limbs responsible for sinning, and they would give evidence against that person, irrefutable evidence against the person. And in a narration of Prophet Muhammad, we are told that the sinners in his extreme despair, he would say to his limbs that it was for your pleasure, it was for your enjoyment that I did the wrong things, I did this crime and sinned and this and that. And now you are witnessing, you're bearing witness against me. So that would be the extreme disappointment that a man would find himself to be. So it's really an eye-opening thing for every one of us, because the entire body is involved in sinning sometimes from head to toe. Our hands, our feet, our eyes, our mouth, our tongue. We do say so many things wrong with our tongue, and the same tongue would bear witness on the day of judgment against us that we did such and such wrong words about such and such person. So every part of body will be involved in making a confession, and it would be such a crystal clear and transparent method of proving someone guilty, that they won't have any chance left for them to put an excuse and say that they didn't commit, and the verdict will pass against them with a complete clarity, and no one would have any doubt about it. And bizambihim fasuhqa li ashabis sa'ir, they would be told very clearly, categorically, that there is suhuk for you, seen ha qaf actually. Suhuk basically means distance, remoteness. You have to remain away from here. When you don't want someone to come closer to you, you would say this word suhkan, suhkan. Don't come closer to me. And the word is as full of disdain and hatred as is the word hasiyan, already used in the same chapter. So it would show that how angry Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would be with those people on that day. So this surah actually so far is enough to make us realize that sinning or committing crimes and going against the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not such an, such a minor or such a common or such an insignificant thing that we can ignore simply and we can, just walk our way. It is something that we have to stop and we have to think over it. Because as believers, we would be held responsible for that. And if we live a conscious life today, that is the only thing that we can attain the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we can save ourselves. Otherwise, none of us can claim that they haven't done anything wrong in their lives at all. And sometimes a minor sin in my sight may be a major sin in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So every one of us has to be really very conscious about how they are living their lives, and especially those who claim to be the believers. Because we are, through these verses of Surah Al Mulk, we are looking at the final end that the disbelievers are going to meet. So the ayah verse 11 was really very short. So I had shown its relevance with the previous ayahs, and the ayat so far, have a great lesson for us to learn, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to learn that lesson. And our practices in life should be based on the lessons that we learn from these verses of the Quran. So this is over from me for now, and going back to Ambareen once again, I would hand over this Zoom meeting to her. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.